Support for today's episode comes from Dame Products, a sexual wellness brand set on design-forward, community-based pleasure education. And look, it's cuffing season, but you may not have a roster just yet, but it doesn't mean you should be denied orgasms. So head on over to dame.com, that's DAME.com, and check out all of their great toys, okay? I probably own all of them, but some of my favorites are the Palm, the Air, the Dip, okay? And if you want to save, you can use the code BOONY10. That's BOONY10, all cap letters, and you can receive 10% off your purchase, all right? Details on how to purchase can be found in the show notes and on theboonybreakdown.com. Hey y'all, it's your girl Boonie, and you're listening to the Boonie Breakdown podcast, your source for all things responsible and ratchet. Welcome to this week's episode of the Boonie Breakdown podcast. I'm excited for this week's episode because we have another Brian on as our guest this week. This week, our guest is Brian Dwayne. He is the founder and creator of BlkTouch, one of the hottest and fastest growing platforms for Black erotica. This conversation was really fun, really beautiful, and intentional, I believe. On the site, you can find some really great oral stories to immaculately shot Black erotica featuring Black bodies. And we talk about how Brian got to this space, why he created BlkTouch, his intention behind casting and recording and creating Black erotica. And if you don't know, Brian does some education. He teaches us the difference between porn and erotica. Is there a difference? But you want to stick around to this conversation because you know why too. We talk about glory holes. So stick around for the conversation. Now we're going to hop into my pick of the week. I know I didn't do a pick of the week last week because I think I was getting my mojo back, and I don't know. I'd been gone for some time, and I don't even think I thought about a pick of the week, honestly. And so this week's pick of the week is, a drum roll, none other than heartthrob Rob Anderson. You have to be living under a rock if you have not seen his videos on TikTok or Instagram just yet. He's fucking hilarious, and he went viral this week again. He goes viral all the time, but he went viral this week for his breakdown and review of Save the Last Dance. It was so funny. I had to then watch Save the Last Dance this weekend. It was so, I'm going to say it's not as unhinged as some of the other things we loved, but going back and watching it, I was just like, wow, we really thought Julia Stiles was out here. Like, we really thought she was breaking that shit down. That shit was so dry and stiff and terrible. But what I liked about Rob's breakdown is I never once thought, who wrote this? And when he showed that it was a white man, it all made sense. Cool outfit. No, slamming outfit. Like, I wonder if like Kerry Washington and Sean Patrick Thomas ever go back and like look at that, and is it like one of those things where they're grateful for it because it is one of those movies where we first were introduced to. I can't think of what else Sean Patrick Thomas was in before that, but anywho, I wonder if they look back with it like, oh my God, I can't believe that, with a little shame, or is it just like, you know, that was my starting point and look at me now. But if you are not following him, please follow Rob Anderson. It's heartthrob Rob Anderson. I think he's on TikTok, similar name, but he's great. Okay. He also does this thing called Gay Science, but if you want good laughs, check him out.
Housekeeping.
Come back later, please.
Housekeeping.
Not now.
So we're going to get into it. Feedback from episode 235, Hobbies and Hope Facts with our problematic fave, Brian. I think the number one response that I got so much of was people just really could not believe that they agreed so much with Brian. And I also got a lot of feedback from a lot of women who were single moms who were like, oh my God, it was so sad to hear a man say it's why they can talk to so many women because so many of them are not available because the men, the father of these children, are not stepping up. So thus they have limited availability. So if you have not listened to last week's episode, how dare you? After our hiatus, you should have ran to your podcast apps to listen to this episode. So please go back and listen to episode 235 with our problematic fave as well. Also, right now, we are running a code for any Boonie Breakdown podcast merch. There's some new things over there. We have some greeting cards. We have tumblers, like water bottle tumblers. There's stickers. There's journals, a Dream Bigger Bitch journal. So if you want to save 15% on your order over $40, you can use the code BACK, B-A-C-K, because we're back in this bitch. The coupon code expires on Halloween at 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. So, yes, be sure to support our merch. I don't know by time if this is released, but I think I have like one or two more orders that need to be processed because the 200th order, I'm giving away a free sweatshirt, a sweatshirt on Boonie. So I appreciate all of the support. You buying merch helps pay the bills around here. So thank you so much. Speaking of paying the bills, we have a Patreon. We do have Patreon. And guess what the fuck I'm starting? Boonie's a book club. So my Patreon gang is already like voting on a date when we're going to hold our book club. I'm going to be announcing the book that we're going to be reading first on Patreon this week. So if you want to get in on Boonie's book club and our conversation and our group chat, you can head on over to patreon.com/the Boonie Breakdown. There are 3 levels you can support for as low as $3 a month. If you sign up for a year, you get 2 months free. So for $30, you're in there and you support me, and I appreciate it. There's also a $6 level, and then the gang is the $15 level. They get custom merch every 4 months, I believe, but you have to be consecutive 4 months to get the merch. So thank you for your support over on Patreon. That's going to gear back up. That had been on hiatus as well. So patreon.com/the Boonie Breakdown. And again, you guys know the spiel. I'm trying to educate now. If you're listening to this podcast on Google Podcasts will be going away soon. So I really would like you guys to find a new way. You can listen on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, Castbox, some really great apps. And I'm hoping that I want to dig a little deeper and do some investigation, but hopefully I can announce a Black-owned podcast app really soon. So I appreciate your support. Follow us on social at The Boonie Breakdown. You can that's on Instagram, TikTok, all of the places except Twitter, where we're at Boonie Breakdown. So that is it for me, and let's get ready to break it down. All right, guys, it's your girl Boonie, and I'm excited to have our guest today. We have Brian Dwayne, not to be confused with our problematic fave Brian. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Very busy, but it's been a very productive day.
That's good. Yeah. That's good. All right. So my listeners already heard a little bit of spiel about you and what you do. So I'm excited. And I want to shout out first before we start our conversation. Shout out to Jax because she made the connection. I was following you and she's like, you need to have Brian on your podcast. And I was like, I don't know. She's like, nope, I'm going to make it happen. So shout out to Jax.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I do. Thank you.
How did you decide to create BlkTouch? Like, was this a thought? Did it evolve out of something else? But I'm curious how you got into this space.
So it wasn't that I didn't initially try to create what it is today.
Okay.
I was a photographer for years, and at the end of 2018, I did a photo shoot That was unlike anything that I'd done before. So I generally did implied nude photography of Black women. So no actual sex or sensuality. It was just, beautiful poses and great lighting. And then to at the end of 2018, I did a shoot that would be considered polyandry. So a woman posed with two guys. And again, that was closer to just being sensual. But I didn't expect it to become anything big. I gave it to the models. They sent it out and it essentially went viral for a while. And, I got a bug in my ear, like, oh, I could keep making more sensual photo sets, right? So the next shoot that I did, it came out even better. It was like a little BDSM session. And it was, again, something that I was not used to doing at the time. And um, I decided to create a separate space for that. So again, my photography wasn't really around sex or sexuality. So I created BlkTouch just to have a separate Instagram profile. I'm also have an IT background, so I created a website so that the stuff that can't be on Instagram had a home. And then I just built a mailing list, and it kind of evolved from being about photos to videos to promote the photos, and then eventually form.
Your website is beautiful, actually. I think it's very well done, very aesthetically pleasing, and the teasers that you post on there are just enough that you get a little bit, but without seeing it all. Like then you're like, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and sign up.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. It's like it's not expensive. You can subscribe and see basically at this point like 95 scenes. And if you don't want to continue, people cancel, like subscribe and turn around and cancel. Because I don't really, my goal is to essentially provide access to the content without forcing people to have to make big decisions. So it's just $12 a month, and those teasers and the stories, that stuff is free, right?
So I'm gonna say this. It was one of your teasers. Is it okay if I read it on here?
Sure, that's fine.
So I think it was with Simone Sky. I can't remember the second person. And it says, I remember a time when we kissed and the taste of wine was still in your tongue. The taste seemed to linger on your nipples, your skin, and the lips between your thighs. Yes, you may have poured me more than my share, but I know you'll never have enough. And I was like, ooh, okay. So do you write that as well, or do you outsource?
No,
it's all your brain.
Yeah. As you can see, they're not all like that. Like not all of the synopsises are like that. But the challenge is that, just to be clear, so this is all me, right? The videos, the posters, the stories, the teasers, the editing, shooting, all of that stuff is me. I do shoot the content with my partner, but after we bring the footage home, essentially I sit here and I edit and I go through it. And at the end of every edit session, I have to basically publish the content and I have to come up with a synopsis. And for that particular one, there wasn't a story that it was like the synopsis was being anchored to, and I just felt poetic in the moment. And the story or the concept was around wine. That scene was called Nightcap. So it was around wine. So that's what made me think about writing something poetic like that. So.
No, it worked.
Thank you.
It worked.
I feel like that more often than not, but I'm just tired. I can't come up with these things all the time.
It's a lot doing it all. To hear that you just told me you were on a call trying to close something, and then you're editing and posting and designing the website, copywriting. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. But I love it. I wouldn't want to do anything else.
So do you star in any of your stuff? Will we see you on your website?
Oh, no. I'm way better behind the camera. But yeah, it's never, I always tell people who I do work with, or anyone that asks, is that I always want people to be excited about being in front of the camera. And that excitement is what I'm trying to capture and share with the audience. If people are hesitant, like I would be, or shy, it doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
And the way that I plan on sort of running all of this, or that I do run, the way that I run this is essentially as naturalistic as possible because we're dealing with people, we're dealing with intimacy, we're dealing with real emotions and stuff like that. And so I don't try to, I don't impose anything on anyone, right? I don't even come up with an idea for a scene. I talk to people and I find out what they're open to doing first, and then I craft the story or the concept around that. Versus saying, "Hey, I got this idea. First, you're going to put on a monkey suit." I don't try to do anything crazy. I always ground it in that person's fantasy or their personal interest in what they're open to.
That's cool. So how do you go about casting? Do people reach out to you? Are you reaching out to people you think are attractive or would be good in front of the camera?
No. Well, both. All of
Okay.
these things. All these things. So right now on the website, there's a link in the main menu that says "We want to shoot." It provides a form for anyone to fill out and submit pictures and their location, a bit of information about themselves. And essentially, I have like this database of people who are interested. At the same time, I'm pretty active on Twitter where there's a lot of content creators. And
Mhm.
as we come across each other and they see the work, they might reach out to me. There's a lot of like naturalistic conversations that evolve into a possible scene. Um, and I don't let my biases stop me from picking people who to work with, right? So I
Mhm.
want the work to be inclusive in regards to age, skin tone, body type, things like that, right? So if you just go by what you like, you're going to basically end up with one type of person in whether it's male or female in a scene. And I want it to be inclusive because I know there's a huge market of women, especially Black women, who aren't served in most mainstream content. And so on my site is probably where a lot of them might see somebody who's handled well and like shot
Mhm.
well, and the lighting is good, and it really feels like, wow, I've never seen someone that looks like me like presented in a way like this, which is at the heart of the work I'm doing. I want Black women to feel like they have a space for them.
I love that. I think too, like when you think about where this space has gone, everyone automatically thinks OnlyFans, right? Like
Mhm.
especially with the boom post pandemic or during the pandemic, everyone kind of navigated and shifted to OnlyFans. And so do
Yeah.
you find yourself trying to proposition your platform as an alternative or competing against OnlyFans? Because I know it's like I'm creating my own space and you're trying to get people to come to your platform.
I think it can be synergistic. Not everything
Okay.
has to be competitive. The way I kind of look at it is, so I'm an artist as much as I am a business person or a technical IT, all the things that I have to do, right? I'm an artist as well. And I think about these scenes and the videos that I create as a piece of work, as a piece of artwork, right? But the analogy that I give to people is that if you can imagine, if you've ever been inside of a storage unit, right, or storage facility, and there's all of these storage units, and if you could imagine that there were beautiful pieces of art inside of each one, that's kind of like how OnlyFans is, right? You
Mm.
can go down this infinite hallway, and on the left and on the right, there's artwork in there, and you may be into one bit or not the other, but I am outside of that storage unit, and I created my entire like a museum that's well curated, and this is just my artwork. Of course, I'm collaborating with other people, but
Mm-hmm.
it's my vision. It's the thing I want to see in the world, and so a lot of people who do work on OnlyFans might want to be a part of this, but it's not exclusive, right? So I shoot with someone, they get the content, and they can publish it and sell it and promote it as they see fit. But on there, that video is a tag for BlkTouch, and people can come and say, "Oh wow, it's not just this one video. He has
It's
all
all
these
of,
other
yeah,
things." Yeah. So I think
that's
it
cool.
can work together, and also working with me, they might get a chance to do something a little bit more higher production than they're used to doing on their own or with whoever they shoot with. And that's sort of like the value proposition that I have for talent that I work with.
That's cool. I know we hear this term a lot, and I think some people may not know what it means, but ethical porn. Well, first we back up. Yeah. Would you say that you make porn?
Yeah, technically, yeah. That's what it is.
I know some people don't like that word, so I was like, let me ask that first.
People don't refer to what I do as porn.
I don't know, because it's something about the word porn. Like, it does have a stigma. And so, I don't know, yours just feels so elevated that I'm like, it's erotica. I don't know why.
I refer to it as erotica, and I can get into that real quick. So, okay. At first, when I started actually shooting porn, it wasn't that was my intention. I sort of evolved into that space, and I was very hesitant to start publishing explicit content on the website because it was just photography at one point, and then I switched over. But when I did switch over, I thought to myself, this is porn. It's sex on video. It's to stimulate people. And everyone, not some, but everyone is like, no, this is not porn. This is art. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. Like, I do come with a vision. It's a little bit, it feels different. But since then, I've learned what the difference between porn and erotica are. And if you're familiar with Audre Lorde, she had a series of essays around erotica. And essentially the definition is like basically a work or anything that stimulates you and exposes you to your capacity for pleasure, right? And that doesn't just have to be sex. That could be a relationship with someone. That could be like a side project that you do outside of work that you feel joyous about, which is how BlkTouch basically became my main thing. I was exposed to this level of pleasure of creating something and building something that I could not get out of my head. Mm-hmm. And so to me, the work of creating BlkTouch is erotica. And the way that I approach creating this content is that it's supposed to be edifying to some degree. It's supposed to show you what is possible, what we could look like if someone took the time to create a story around the content, create context for the sex and all that stuff. Maybe for someone that doesn't see themselves in a sensual way, but sees someone that looks like them, this becomes that sort of gateway to a possible more pleasurable life. So yes, I do believe this is erotica, but technically it's still porn. I just don't call it porn all the time.
Yeah. No, because I know some people feel a type of way, like, my stuff isn't porn. I'm not making porn. But...
I'm not Erykah Badu. I am not sensitive about my shit. I am my biggest critic, so there's not much anyone could tell me.
Aren't we all? So yeah, for people who may not be familiar, I know we see the term about making ethical porn. What is that?
For me, I don't know. I think it could be considered or come off as like a buzzword instead of people understanding what is that actually, how do you apply the idea of something being ethical. But for me, I just essentially, I decide what the order of importance is when it comes to creating this content or running the business. And it's first and foremost is the people I'm working with come before everything else. Let's say if we came together to do a shoot, and in that same moment in time, I've rented a location, I've done all this sort of prep work. I planned, we had calls, and then the day of, you don't feel like doing it. I have no problem with saying, okay, right? Because to me, your pleasure is what we're trying to capture first and foremost. It's not even just to create a content to sell, but it's, can I foster a space where you're going to enjoy yourself? If I can't do that, if that is not possible, then all bets are off. Because that's the foundation for everything that I try to create. Okay. But what makes it ethical is because I just put people first, and I'm highly sensitive, especially with women, to make sure that this space that I'm creating is conducive to, first is based off of consent.
Yes.
Conducive to their pleasure. And so I know it sounds weird, but that's more important to me than the money. That's more important to me than the growth of the business and all of that. I don't want to leave a trail of unhappy, unsatisfied, people who have content out there that they're not proud of. I don't want that attached to me or the project in any way. So because this is how this is the framework in which I move and operate, it comes off as ethical, but it's more about being human, right? And not trying to create regardless of how I impact the people and things like that.
I think
So
it's dope to hear a man who is in this space saying that, right? Like, I care about the people, and it's a human element to this, even though, people think of, selling sex and pleasure and sensuality is so lowbrow sometimes. And the spaces in which some of the content we consume, right, is pretty, dangerous and icky. It's really nice to hear someone talk about it with such care. And
I would always say this too, right? And this is the thing that you cannot build so I'm doing this for the community, right? I want there to be fans of the project, but people who speak about it highly and feel connected to the work. But you can't do that while hurting people in the community. And so the reason why we end up doing that is because we value things better. Again, it's the order of what's important. So if I take money as the highest purpose of anything I do, then I'm gonna have to hurt your feelings because you canceled on me or X, Y, and Z. I choose to care about I choose what's important first. And capitalism will hurt everybody and everything that gets in front of it. So I will put it to the back burner and choose to serve the audience and the community first. That's how I feel.
That's a word right there. Capitalism. How is it like behind the scenes for you? Like, I know you mentioned earlier you prefer to be behind the camera and directing, and how does that go for you? Like,
I also said I'd rather not be doing anything else. This is why I'm here at this point in time.
Really? Like, you feel like this is your true calling to do?
Yeah. I mean, so you know a little bit about me. For like 20 years, I worked in IT. I was a network engineer, worked on routers and switches and load balancers, all this technical stuff. But I'm a very, very technical person. Like, I coded the website. I'm recoding the website right now. When we get off the phone, I'll be coding. But at the same time, I was always interested in photography and video work. So I taught myself those things. I spent more or less 20 something years just studying things that brought me joy, but I didn't do specifically for work, right? So even when I said coding and I said photography, that wasn't my job. I did something else, but I was as passionate about that as I was with my job. And so now here I am at the end of this 20 years, and I start this project, and it uses every bit of the things that I've learned.
That's awesome.
Yeah. If you can wake up and imagine a concept or an idea, and then there's a ton of people who want to work with you, and you pitch them the idea and they're excited and they show up, and then I get a chance to not just learn my camera, but to apply cinematography rules and shot listing and all the things that I care about. The only challenge I have is time. If I could stretch time out, I would just be creating all the time, and I'd be publishing and sharing. But time is also what makes all of this precious because it doesn't last forever.
Yeah, that's the part too where it's hard when you're trying to scale and grow, right? And when you've been doing it yourself for so long, I'm preaching to myself about this podcast as well. It's hard to turn stuff over because it's yours, and I know what I'm looking for, and I know how to tweak it and edit it.
Right.
Do I want to turn this over? So I empathize and I feel it when you just said that, because I struggle with that myself. It's really difficult.
There's one thing about that real quick is I know this. It's just like you know it about yourself, I know it about myself. And the person I am today that allows me to do and publish and do all this work, I have to grow into this person now and to evolve so that I'm not doing everything. I have to continue to evolve and learn how to deal with people on a different level and all that stuff. And I have people fill in the spaces. I know that's the challenge ahead of me. It's probably bigger than anything I've done before.
Yeah, 1,000%, 1,000%. So I'm gonna get in your business for a little bit.
Okay.
You can tell me no or shut up.
Well, go ahead.
So, are you dating?
No,
Are
I
you
have a.
married?
No, I'm not married. I have a partner, my lady,
Okay.
my everything, and she literally stands next to me when I'm shooting. She's there.
That is amazing. That was my next question because I
Yeah.
know someone would kill me and say, Booney, how did you not ask Brian this? Because we got to know. And I think, again, going back to stigma around sex workers, people in the sex space,
Mhm.
um, it's hard for people to grasp that they could have a supportive partner, right? And so
She's more than the right one. So
that's
I
amazing.
when she met me, I probably had started the project maybe 6 months before that, and so it was already kind of bubbling a little bit. And for maybe the first 2 years, she would just see me go off and come back, and like, oh, I just did a shoot, and then she accompanied me on a trip to Maryland. I'm in Georgia. She accompanied me on a trip to Maryland one year, and I essentially asked her to just take this camera, make sure this is how you zoom in, this is how you do I just showed her a few of the steps, and she did it. And I'm looking back at the footage, and it looks so great because before that, I had the camera in a fixed position, and I'm running around. So there's two cameras. I'm running around with the second camera. And then when I'm editing, I have to cut out all of the clips of me
Oh,
in
move
the
it.
first one,
Yeah,
right, moving in and out. So she's now standing the camera on the tripod and shifting the camera around. And so the footage is like twice the amount of footage. So that was like, wow, okay. And then we did it again and we did it again. And she's probably done at this point like 50 scenes with me. And every time I shoot, she's there. She's assembling and disassembling. And
that's
um,
dope.
but yeah, she also had to hear about me talking about this work and the people and stuff for years before it was both of us doing it. But
That's
yeah,
dope.
so yeah, she's my partner in and outside.
So, what's on your wish list? Like, what's a scene that you or something you've envisioned that you want to capture that you haven't yet captured on camera?
That's good. I have a list of stories or just soft concepts that I can build on top of. So you
Give
want to
us
hear
one.
one?
Give us one. Yeah.
Okay, so half of this stems from what's tantalizing, right? So, are you familiar with the concept of a glory hole?
Yes.
Maybe
I
I should
low
explain
key,
that.
I've never told my audience this. I low key, like I don't know that I want to be on the I don't know how I want to interact with one, or do I just
But
want
it's
to
interesting if we want to watch it. So this taps into that, right?
okay.
So I'm very much a guy, but every time I think about these concepts, I think about how stimulating would this be to a woman or whatever, right? So they have an idea. So a glory hole essentially is a man puts his phallus through a hole in the quote unquote wall, and someone performs oral on him on the other side. That's the concept of a glory hole. But if you can imagine a story where a couple finds themselves at a crossroads and a woman brings her husband to a place like a glory hole where he's unaware of what's supposed to be happening, he doesn't know why he's there, and she essentially um, makes him use the glory hole. He doesn't know who's on the other side, and she's standing there right next to him and has him explain how it feels to her. And like basically it's about her verbally dominating him while he's being pleasured, right? So that's the premise of the idea. I mean, someone could take it, steal it, and run with it. That's fine. But I
Don't
always feel
steal
like it's cool
it.
because I always feel first off I have an audience. That's the harder thing to do is to get an actual audience. But
Yeah.
even with someone taking the idea, it's the execution that matters, and I'm all about that. So that's why I think ideas are great, but they're not the end of the story. So that if you can imagine that idea is the spark that'll drive me all the way to finding the people, getting the location, writing it, and editing and shooting, and publishing it, and even coming up with a poster the idea of that intimate moment. And if you can imagine, she's talking to him. So we're not seeing anything sexual, while they're talking. We're just seeing two faces and him looking her in the eye and him explaining the sensations and the feeling and what is she doing now, X, Y, and Z. And maybe then it'll switch into an actual penetrative scene afterwards in some way. But that's one idea of many.
Creative.
Thank you.
But it's something about a glory hole.
Yeah.
That has me intrigued. But like I said, I don't know what capacity
you want to interact with that whole scenario.
So I do think maybe the first go around is me like watching this, some voyeurism type thing happening.
That could be fun.
Yeah. But they are very intriguing. And I think somebody I saw on, was it Instagram? Because people are doing a lot of play parties now. And I think I saw on Instagram somebody did a glory hole for a woman and had 3 holes.
Oh wow! Hello.
So I was like, there
That's
you go.
A thing?
Apparently so. Creativity.
That's what's up.
Do you have a wish list or a list of ideas that you would like to execute? But who's somebody you would want to work with that you haven't worked with? Do you have that?
No, I don't.
Really?
Yeah, I actually work with somebody assists me with editing. He bought me a T-shirt that says "I'm not pressed" because he's always asking me that question. How about this person? How about that person? And I always say the most important thing to me when it comes to collaborating with someone is that they know what I'm doing and they're excited. I don't really have sort of like this list of popular celebrity-ish, like porn or content creators. I want them to see what I'm doing and be as excited about what we are going to do together. And a lot of the times that doesn't mean, because of their popularity, they have this feeling of entitlement and all that stuff. So I'm more interested. I would work with someone who's never done it if they're excited. And because the whole point is serving the audience. There's maybe people in the audience that don't even know who this person I want to shoot with is, right? But the story that we're going to create together is to serve that person in the audience. So as long as we can come together and they commit to telling the story that I want to tell, or giving the energy and the time in that moment and being present and experiencing pleasure and allow me to capture it, I'm Gucci. So I'm not stuck on any person in particular, to be honest.
That's great. I am shocked by that though. I figured you would have, but it makes sense to me the way you seem to operate. Yeah.
I'm not in the game. You feel me? It's like people will be like, "Oh, how about this person and that person?" And you want to go to the awards, and I'm like, first off, the porn awards, like the AVNs, are so. An industry like the porn industry is openly and overtly racist. So to be an award show that rewards people in this industry basically is like, I don't want anything to do with that, And the flip side is if I'm trying to create content for Black women, I'd like to find out how many Black women are even aware of who is getting awards in the porn industry. Like, they don't care. Because it doesn't market to them. It doesn't care about Black women in the way that I do. So I don't want to be on their awards. They can have that.
Strange. What has been your favorite scene that you've done so far? Do you have a favorite, or are they all like your children and you can't pick one?
I'm not precious like that, but there's a lot of good favorite ones, right? So story-wise, I would say Girls Talk is the one that comes to mind. There's Chosen. That's a good story. If I could just give me 2 seconds.
I'm writing them down because when I subscribe, I'm going to go look at them.
Yeah. I'm going to just tell you story-wise, Chosen, Girls Talk, Uninvited. That story was executed very well. Let's see, Imani's Secret, that was acted very well. So there's like these ones that I own the narrative part, the story that leads into the sex, the thing that gives it context. But when people get in the bed and they do their thing, I don't tell them what to do. I don't be like, all right, we're going to do this for 10 seconds. I don't. I'm just running around like a madman with a camera, trying to capture it as well as I can. So in terms of the intimacy, okay, so the open your mouth, that one, uninvited, that one. There's a bunch.
All right,
Girls
I'm gonna have
talk.
to look. I'm gonna have to start with uninvited because you didn't said it twice.
Yeah, and if you like the idea of a woman receiving and genuinely enjoying receiving oral, check out Girls Talk.
Okay.
And just one, the one that's associated with that, which is Hard Work.
Hard work.
That guy is a maestro down there.
Bet.
That's all I can say.
All right, bet. So there you go, guys. When you go ahead and sign up for your subscription, we're gonna start with those.
Yeah,
Run the
there's plenty
numbers up.
more. Yeah.
No, this is another little fun fact.
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny about porn. For me, it's very I go in like cycles. It's very cyclical for me. So like sometimes I'm all about girl on girl.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I'm like, no, that's enough. Like, and it'll be like 2 months where I'm just like, I just want to see anal. I don't know, but it always changes. It never stays the same. But if I had to rank, which is funny, girl on girl is probably a tried and true.
there's plenty, and you know so I'm currently in the middle of rewriting the website from scratch, right? So there is an ability to filter the sites like there isn't currently an ability to filter.
Oh, you're working.
I'm working on it, and to basically pick girl and girl or threesomes and stuff like that is coming, but it's also like you can look at the poster and you'll see how many. If that's the category, if you're worried about like who's in the scene, it'll show you on the posters.
Cool. So now we're at the part where we do the breakdown, and it's pretty much just word association.
Okay.
I'm going to say a word. You say the first thing that comes to mind. It could be another word, a phrase, a sound, whatever.
Okay.
All right. It's easy. People are usually scared, and I never know why. Like, what can I ask? Okay. First one, Black women.
Oh, exquisite.
That is an underrated word. Baby oil.
Chest.
Orgasms.
Natural.
Touch.
Intimacy.
Money.
Tool.
Sensuality.
Underrated.
And because you love this so much, coding.
Elation. I love that shit. I mean, literally, when I get off, I'm gonna be watching YouTube videos on React and web development and TDD and.
Look, everybody on Patreon, you can see how his face lit up when he said it.
Love it. Love that shit.
So, Brian, if you could tell everyone where they can follow you, where they can find BlkTouch and follow on social media.
Okay. So on Twitter or X, Instagram, and TikTok, basically you can find BlkTouch at BlkTouch. So that's the username on all three of those platforms. And it's also the website. So if you have a challenge finding me on any of those platforms, just go to BlkTouch.com. And if you want to chat directly with me, there's a Discord server if you guys have one or you want to access it. Going to the website and going all the way to the bottom, or even in the menu, there's a Discord link. And it's a free chat thing. Basically, I'm in there, and if people pop up and say stuff, I'm there to answer questions and sort of get feedback on the scenes, because that's probably the place where I hear the most about the content that I publish.
Awesome. So yes, guys, go ahead and be sure to check it out because I am as well. Some teasers if you're still on the fence. I don't know how you could be on the fence after listening to this. So be sure to sign up. And Brian, thank you so much.
Oh, you're definitely welcome. Thank you for having me.
All right, guys, that is it for this week's episode. Again, I want to thank our guest, Brian Dwayne of BlkTouch, for an amazing conversation. You all, please be sure to check it out. Support. It's sexy over there, okay? And he's having an event as well in Atlanta coming up, I think next week, but in early November. So head on over to his page to get all the details and be sure to support that event. Also, if you're in the mood for some sexy time with yourself, go ahead and support our sponsor for this week's episode, Dame Products. You head on over to dame.com and use the code Boonie10, that's Boonie10, all cap letters, to save 10% on your purchase. All right. Thank you guys for your support. And if you enjoyed this episode, I encourage you to listen to more episodes and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, YouTube, or any app that you listen to your podcast on. Do not forget to leave us a 5-star review over in Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and you might hear a review on the next episode. Follow us on all social media. Share these reels. You guys were sharing those reels last week. Thank you so much. But keep sharing these reels. Share them with those you love, those you hate. I don't give a fuck. I just don't make these pretty images for nothing, and I'm not paying for them for nothing. Have a dope ass week. Thank you for listening. And remember, the ratchet in me always honors the ratchet in you. Namaste. Until next time.